Hello, everyone. In today's video, we will modify some facial expressions using the DNA from the Metahuman facial rigging we transferred last time. First, let's load the DNA of the character we created last time. Let's check the eye closing motion of this character. The eyes don't close properly, am I right? We will fix this motion by moving the joints. First, specify the path to save the DNA again. Then, break the currently connected joints by clicking Break Rig Connections. Next, type upper in the joint filtering. You should see a joint called eyelid upper A. To make modifications, let's temporarily turn off other additional meshes. You can adjust the transform of this joint to correct the form. Of course, you can also use other nearby joints to make adjustments. However, for those who are modifying for the first time, it might be a bit challenging due to the many joints. It is recommended to directly select and identify the names of the surrounding joints and move them to understand which areas they control. Then, make your modifications accordingly. This manual adjustment method might be more difficult than expected. However, adjusting with joints allows you to manage rigging more efficiently, as it applies consistently even at lower LODs. Be cautious not to change the transform too much, as it might cause issues in other poses. Adjust it moderately to achieve the correct form without overlapping with other meshes. It's a rather intricate task. All right, once we've made some adjustments, let's turn on the other meshes to check for any overlapping areas. We can ignore the cartridge mesh for now, as we don't plan to use it for this character. The lower eyelash is slightly higher than the upper eyelash, right? In such cases, it's good to adjust the eyelid upper A joint a bit more. Additionally, there are joints specifically for controlling the eyelashes, so this adjustment isn't too difficult. Very good. Now, if you've made all the adjustments, click Save Current Joint Edit Data. This will temporarily calculate the current modified joint coordinates in the DNA. Of course, you must save this to the DNA. If you don't save to the DNA after making modifications, the character will revert to its original form before the adjustments. Now you can see that the left eye closes properly. But what about the right eye? Do we need to painstakingly adjust each joint on the right side, just like we did on the left? No, we don't. Click the Mirror Logic button, and it will automatically find the symmetric logic, and they ask if you want to mirror the changes. Click Yes, and it will perform the calculations, and then ask if you want to save to the DNA, just like before. Proceed as you did earlier. Great. We've now adjusted the eye closing movements for both eyes. Let's see if there are any issues when these movements are combined with other eye-related actions. Usually, combining different actions can cause interference issues, but in this case, it seems fine, probably because the adjustments were well done. If anyone encounters problems when using eye-related actions together, I will address similar situations later, so you can refer to that video for adjustments. For now, it seems to be working well with other poses, so we'll move on. Since I've shown you how to manually adjust the joints, now I'll demonstrate the automatic joint adjustment method. First, we will use the behavior retarget function, as we learned previously. As I mentioned before, this function allows us to bring in another metahuman rig as a reference and retarget facial expressions in real time. We will use this function to modify the expressions using only parameter values. First, let's select all the joints of the reference Metahuman. In the Behavior Retarget tab, click the Set Selected Reference Joints button. Since we learned how to use this function in a previous lesson, we can proceed more quickly with the modifications. Once the settings are done, choose the pose you want. Before selecting a pose, note that all poses here are currently checked, but since we will only change the desired pose, right-click to uncheck all. If you have a specific pose in mind, you can search for it. Even though we have minimized the morphs, the wrinkles are still excessive when smiling, right? Let's try modifying it through the parameters. The scale ratio here multiplies the relative size ratio value of the expression. There's not much of a difference, is there? You can modify the rotation and position values of the moving joints for each pose like this. However, in the case of a smiling expression, it seems that adjusting the wrinkles is more challenging than expected. Increasing the ratio sampling value here might produce slightly better results, but the difference is not significant. It appears that the behavior retarget function has clear limitations when it comes to eliminating wrinkles. However, it seems to effectively control other expressions overall with ease. For now, since we can't remove the wrinkles, let's just reduce the rotation values slightly. Let's adjust the other side as well. Yes, we have lowered the rotation values to around 0.4 for both the left and right sides. Since we're only modifying these two, we should only check these two. Now click Joint Retarget to DNA. The other poses seem to be reasonably well aligned. However, the wrinkles still appear prominently when smiling, which looks awkward. We will now switch from Behavior Retarget to the Behavior tab to address these wrinkles. First, as we did when modifying the eyeblink pose, break the rig connections and look for the related joints. This method doesn't seem to remove the wrinkles effectively. Let's not modify anything for now and just save to restore it to the original state. It seems we need to take a more drastic approach. We will replace the blend shape. First, copy the current pose and rename it. Then, we will directly modify the shape of this morph target. To smooth out the faces where wrinkles appear, we will use the Sculpt Mode's Smooth function. You can activate the Smooth function by holding the Shift key while using any tool. It seems to be coming along well. Now select the logic item to be changed, match the current pose, and go to the related blend shape in the bottom right. Select the relevant blend shape name. Then, select the morph target you created earlier. And with the invert shape function enabled, click Change Blend Shape. It will ask if you want to save it to the DNA. Click Yes. This will ensure that when you load the DNA again with the viewer, the changes will be applied consistently. You should see that unlike the right side, the left side has the morph we created, and the wrinkles are no longer appearing. Additionally, the joint modifications we made will be consistently applied even at lower LOD levels. However, the changes made with morphs won't apply to LODs. Therefore, it's essential to understand these differences and make adjustments accordingly. Now, let's make some adjustments to the eye-related poses. If you look at the eye lookup left pose, you can see that the eyelash is intersecting with the mesh. In this case, you can quickly fix it by slightly lowering the eyelid upper A joint. After that, you can also find and adjust the joints related to the eyelashes. Once you're done, click Save Current Joint Edit Data. This isn't applied to the opposite side either, right? Similarly, you can use mirror logic. When performing mirror logic, make sure it finds the exact counterpart and mirrors it as you intended. Now let's move the eyes around to check if there are any problematic poses. When the eyes are looking downwards, the shape looks a bit off. Let's fix this. As I mentioned earlier, you should select the surrounding joints and focus on adjusting the ones with the most influence. However, there are joints that have significant influence, but are not easily noticeable. When the eyes are looking far down, it's usually best to adjust the shape using the eyelid lower B joint to make it look more natural. Let's also pay attention to adjusting the upper part of the eye. The movements of closing the eyes and looking downwards are quite similar for the upper eyelid. Therefore, it's best to adjust the upper part as similarly as possible to the eye closing pose. Once you've made the adjustments, save the changes. Don't forget to apply the mirror logic as well. How does it look now? It seems fine when simply moving the eyes. But there is still some intersection when moving the eyes while they are closed. If you want to find poses that merge with other poses, check the PSD checkbox. PSD starts from pose number 258. Now, let's search for the relevant poses by entering eye look or eye blink. Here we have the 300th logic. Eye look down left, eye blink left pose. First, set the DNA save path. Break the rig connection and then proceed with the adjustments. Once you are done, save it to the DNA. Don't forget to apply the mirror logic to the other side as well. All right, let's check now. Lower the eyes and close them. It seems to be working well. Now, how about looking up and closing the eyes? As you can see, the lower part of the eyelash intersects with the upper part again, and the mesh looks quite distorted. I'll be adjusting this pose this time. Since the eyes are turned upwards, it makes sense that the eyes would close slightly upwards as well, even when closed. It's very important to make adjustments by estimating and adapting to the logic of mixed poses according to the situation. You can use the same concept to adjust other poses as well. Now, let's find all the poses that might be problematic when the eyes are closed and moved. Oh, it looks like the 300th pose, which we adjusted for the eyes looking downward while closed, still has some issues. My apologies, this needs to be fixed again. That was my mistake. This pose needs to be adjusted to give a deeper closed eye look. Save all your changes. Now let's review the modified poses. When the eyes are closed and moved, there don't seem to be any major issues. However, when turning the eyes upwards to the left or right, the eyelash slightly intersects with the mesh. Let's adjust this as well. When adjusting the look left or right poses, there are some points to be cautious about. The names of these poses can be a bit confusing. For example, if we're dealing with the eye look right pose, it can be divided further into the left and right eyes. The eye look right L pose would mean the left eye is looking to the right. The opposite pose would be eye look left R, where the right eye is looking to the left. Please be mindful of these naming issues. Although mirror logic automatically finds and adjusts the logic, it's still possible to choose the wrong logic due to confusing names. So proceed with caution. All right, let's do one final check. Typically, facial rigging adjustments require the most work around the eyes. Hmm. Since there are PSD poses like eye look up L and eye look right L that intersect, we also need to adjust the PSD poses for when the eyes are closed. First, search for eyeblink to find the relevant pose. Here it is, the 308th pose. Eye look up L, eye look right L, and eye blink L. Let's go ahead and make the necessary adjustments. All right, save your changes now. Let's do one final test. When the eyes are closed and moved, everything looks good. The eye movements when open also show no significant issues. Of course, the areas you need to adjust on your characters might be different. However, I hope you understand that you can make adjustments in this way, as demonstrated in the video. I'll see you next time. You've done an excellent job following along, and I appreciate your hard work. Thank you very much.